ॐ स्थापकाय च धर्मस्य सर्वधर्मस्वरूपिणे अवतारवरिष्ठाय रामकृष्णाय ते नमः। Namaskar to all of you. Welcome to the study of Bhagavad Gita. Today we are studying the 65th verse of the second chapter. Please note that the live chat has been enabled for this video. If you have any questions relating to this discourse, please type it in the live chat and I will try to respond to them at the end of today's discourse. Now we will begin the proper study of Bhagavad Gita by chanting the meditation verse, one of the meditation verse of Bhagavad Gita. Om Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsachanuramarthanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum. We shall now chant the 65th verse and then proceed to the word-to-word meaning and then to the simple meaning and then to the details of that verse. Shri Bhagavan Uvacha, the Blessed Lord told Arjuna, Prasade sarvadhukkanam hanirasyopajayate prasannachetaso hyashu buddhih paryavatishthate. The word-to-word meaning of this verse is Prasade, when the mind is tranquil, even, peaceful. Hanihi, the destruction. Sarvadukkaha, sarvadukkanam, of all miseries. Upajayate, takes place. He, verily, buddhihi, the self-knowledge. Asya, of this prasanna chetasaha, serene-minded person, paryavatishtate, becomes firm. Ashu, very soon. So, by tranquility of the mind, the prasada, the destruction of all miseries takes place. Verily, the self-knowledge of the serene-minded person becomes firm soon. Now, we shall discuss this wonderful verse, the 65th verse, from the devotional angle. Now, this prasada is what we think generally associate prasada with the offering which have been done to the Lord in the form of sweets or savories or some other things which has been offered to the Lord, and also some water, tirtha. We offer water to the Lord with camphor, tirtha, the tulsi leaves, bilva leaves of some flowers, and then we take it, Ganga water, so that we take it as prasada. That's our idea of prasada. So through that prasada, we get the grace of the Lord. How do we get the grace of the Lord? Through that prasada, it is by the joy we get with it. So that is the ananda, the bliss. So now, grace of Lord enters us through those things which we take in the form of food or sound, the smell. If you go to the temple, you can see they tell the eatable offered to the Lord is prasada. The music and other things, the mantra, the sound of the bell, which enters your ears is in the form of the sense object, that is the sound of the ear, goes into the ears to your mind. The mantra, the beautiful soothing music, the beautiful soothing songs, bhajans, the soothing music of the drums, the bells, everything goes into your mind to form the prasada in the form of sound. Then you smell that beautiful dhupa, the natural resins and other things, the agarbatti, the camphor smell, everything that goes, and also the flowers, beautiful flowers, fragrant flowers offered to the Lord, that will be there as nirmalya. You will smell it. So the sense of smell, that indriya, gets in, which has been offered, the prasada, the dhupa, the agarbatti, that goes into your nose and you smell that beautiful thing. So that comes to you into your mind in the form of prasada, that sense object of the nose, for the nose. Then the first was the tongue, the prasada of the food, then the prasada for the ears, then the prasada for the nose. Then you see the beautiful arati, the decoration to the Lord, the beautiful eyes of the Lord, the kirita, so many things, other things, decoration done to the Lord, the beautiful form of the Lord, the dress which has been put on the Lord, so many other beautiful things you see there. So all that goes into your mind in the form of prasada. The prasada of the sight, then the prasada of the touch. You touch with your hand the arati, after it comes the warmth of that arati. Then you do the pranam, the touch of the temple pressings with your foot, bare foot. Then you touch the images, do the pranam, the feet of the Lord there. Everything, the form of sparsha, the prasada enters you. So that is what we see from the devotional angle. There is a beautiful saying. If you hear that, it will become clearer, another aspect of prasada. What enters everything in the form of prasada. So what is this? When bhakti, devotion, enters food, that food becomes prasada. When bhakti enters water, that becomes amrita, nectar, tirtha. When bhakti enters travel, our travels, excursion, and when we are going out to so many places, when bhakti enters travels, it becomes tirtha, pilgrimage. When bhakti enters music, that sound becomes kirtan, devotional music. When bhakti enters our house, any building, it becomes a temple. When bhakti, devotion, enters action, the work we do, every work we do, if we do it as an offering to the Lord, that becomes the prasada of seva, karma yoga. So everything is becoming prasada when you do with devotion as an offering to the Lord. So the devotion, when added to anything, will become prasada. Why? Because when you add everything, offer to the Lord everything, then you will get back the grace, the prasada, the joy. Who is the Lord is full of joy, infinite joy. So when bhakti or devotion enters our action, it becomes karma yoga or seva. So when bhakti enters into our work, work becomes karma yoga, the prasada of the Lord. And when bhakti enters a human being, or the devotion enters the human being, then as the prasada, what will that person become? He will become a god, divine being. So that is the idea of prasada. So now the grace of the Lord, we can see, is manifested in the form of prasada. So through the devotional scriptures, we can see everything can be converted into prasada. All the sense objects which are an impediment, all the sense objects which are obstructing us, when offered to God, when directed that towards God, will convert it into prasada, and the grace of the Lord, that is the joy, the bliss, the tranquility of the mind, will enter our being. So By divine grace comes the peace in which all sorrow ends, and the intellect of such a person of tranquil mind soon becomes firmly established in God, the knowledge of God. So that is the explanation of this particular verse, the 65th verse, from the devotional angle, from the bhakti school of thought. So prasada comes, we get the prasada through the grace. The grace of the Lord is expressed through this prasada. So it is not always the eatable. That is one aspect of prasada. For our mouth or the tongue, so the prasada enters our body through the tongue. And the devotion, the grace of the Lord enters us, the joy of the God, into our system, into our mind, and brings the beautiful joy, the happiness. So that is what is indicated. So the grace of the God flows to us. So grace is like divine energy that flows into a person's personality. By grace, God, who is Sat, infinite existence absolute, Chit, infinite consciousness or knowledge absolute, Ananda, infinite joy, bliss absolute. So when the aspirants, the spiritual being, concentrates much on this aspect of God, that is the bliss, Ananda aspect of God, then that path is called as the devotional path, bhakti. And that person will become a bhakta. His stress is more towards the joy of God, joy aspect of God, Ananda. Then those people who takes to the path of concentrating on the consciousness, the knowledge portion of the same God, they are called Gnanis. It is the Gnana Marga, the Sankhya Yoga or Sankhya Marga. Then the of all the other thing is the existence. So that is nothing special, but it's another aspect of the Lord. So those who concentrate on the chit or consciousness aspect or the knowledge aspect of God, they are Gnanis. Those who concentrate on the bliss aspect of God, they are the bhaktas, devotees. So there is no much difference. In the end, they have to meet at the same place. Now, that's why bhakti and gnana are one and the same. Then in the Bhagavan Shankaracharya tells about in the path to the higher aspiration to please the Lord, bhaktiritya vidiyate in Viveka Chudamani, he tells the highest path is devotion. And what is devotion there? It is Swasvarupa Anusandhana. So to know your Atman, to understand get the knowledge of God. So knowledge and bhakti are one and the same. They are not different. Highest knowledge, highest devotion are one and the same. Why does it look different? Because in the beginning it differs. It looks different. But as you go on forward, you go towards God, it is the same thing. Knowledge and devotion becomes one and the same. So now Shuddha Bhakti, Shuddha Gnana are one and the same. Ramakrishna used to tell because he has experienced everything. So that grace of God flows to us through this prasada. As I told you, when prasad or eatables are offered to God, that becomes prasada, devotion has entered to it. So we get the grace of God through this prasada. How does that become? Everything becomes, all the sense objects can become prasada. All the five, the sense, the touch, the taste, the form, the sense objects of all our senses become prasada when we offer it to the Lord. So that's why by grace, God who is Satchit Ananda bestows His divine knowledge, divine love and divine bliss to us. This entrenches the intellect like the North Star, the pole star, or in Sanskrit it is called as, in Indian languages, Dhruva Nakshatra, Dhruvatara. So in olden days, they didn't have this Marinus compass or as of now, the Google GPS or the Google map. So it was all that pole star. So the direction, the travelers, they used to keep either their ship or while they are traveling, everything they used to be guided by the pole star. So likewise, when you make the Lord as your pole star, so the divine knowledge, the divine love, and the divine bliss, so we will get that. This entrenches the intellect like the North Star or the pole star in love, bliss, and knowledge of God. By God's grace, when we experience the higher taste of divine bliss, the agitation for sensual happiness is extinguished. All that, why are we getting sorrow? Because we are trying to get the sensual joy. And there are so many impediments. And even when we get this experience the sensual joy, it becomes more by lobha, by greed. It increases the thirst for more sensual joy, so that causes the sorrow and suffering. But now, God, by the God's grace, the joy you get when we experience the higher state of divine bliss, the agitation for sensual happiness is lessened, extinguished. Once that hankering for material objects ceases, one goes beyond all suffering and the mind becomes tranquil. So, an example, so we can see that Girish Chandra Ghosh, the devotee of Sri Ramakrishna, a Bohemian devotee who had all the vices. He had committed all kinds of sin. He used to make a statement, if I knew that there was a well in the form of Sri Ramakrishna, which I could throw all my sins, I would have committed more sins and I would have come to Ramakrishna. Because if I knew that there was a well called Ramakrishna who would eat off all my sins. So he had committed so many sins. He was a great drunkard too. How did Sri Ramakrishna convert him to give up drinking and go in the path of spiritual life? So when there was some controversy between devotees asking him not to take alcohol, give up alcohol, you are coming to Sri Ramakrishna. So many good devotees are coming there, decent devotees. They will all feel bad. They will feel bad about Sri Ramakrishna. You should not come drunk to Sri Ramakrishna. Give up this habit. So Girish Chandra Ghosh argued, telling that my Gurudev, Sri Ramakrishna, has not told anything about that to me. So if my Gurudev tells, stop drinking, I will stop from today. Let us go. Let us see what Sri Ramakrishna will do. They came from Girish Chandra Ghosh's house, Ramchandra Datta and the other devotees. As soon as they entered the room of Sri Ramakrishna in Dakshineshwar, as if Sri Ramakrishna was so many kilometers away, as if he is a part of the conversation, told Girish, I know that you drink. I don't tell that to stop drinking. But whatever and whenever you're drinking alcohol, you offer that alcohol to Divine Mother, your Ishtadevata Kali, and then take it as prasad. Don't drink without converting it to prasad. Offer that to Divine Mother Kali and take that alcohol as prasad. So Girish was very happy. He started offering everything to God, so that alcohol too got converted into prasad. He used to consume that. Gradually, that desire for intoxication went away and the bhakti aspect came and the joy of Divine Mother started entering him in the form of grace. And he gave up the drinking and he became a great devotee. There was so much transformation. So how that prasada is associated with God. Anything we take, we drink, we take the food, when with devotion, when we offer that to the Lord and take it, it becomes prasad, whatever it might be. Your sound as sound prasad, or the sight prasad, or the nose, agrana, the smell prasad, everything offered to God. That becomes prasad and you will start getting that joy already within you. The Lord exists in your heart. When the devotion enters and those things enters into your mind, you will get the tranquility, the joy of God is already there within you. You are of the nature of that Satchitananda. Then from there within, the joy will start coming out, manifesting. So there are so many other ways by we can see the prasad. Some devotees like Gnanadev, the greatest devotee of Vithala, used to go every day as a small boy. His father had asked him to go and offer the food to Vithala. As a small child, he thought that the Lord will come and take the food. That day the father couldn't come, so he had gone to offer the food to Vithala. So when he saw that the Lord is not taking it, he started crying and showing his sorrow that, oh Lord, you are not taking that small child. When he forced that the Lord should take the food, and when the Lord would not take, he started smashing his head to the stone at the feet of the Lord. You have to take food, otherwise my father will think that I have not given the food to you. So that innocent child, when he was praying to God in that fashion, the Lord came there, manifested, and took that as prasad. The people would not believe him. So that is, God will take away all that thing as prasad, and the little whatever remaining, you may take it as this. But that is a different aspect. But when Sri Ramakrishna used to do the puja to Mother Kali, another aspect of prasad can be seen. Ordinary people who don't have so much of devotion, how should we then take that aspect of prasad? Sri Ramakrishna, while he was doing the puja to Kali in Dakshineshwar, when all that offerings were set in front of the Mother, Divine Mother Kali, and the mantras, either the Bilvapatra and other things, the flowers would be put on that, and it would be made sacred by throwing the offered water on it and telling the mantras, and offer to the prana, pana, vyana, udana, samana, all those things. When the mantras were complete, so he could see that rays would come from the eyes of Mother Kali, and it would touch all the prasad there, all the items, whatever has been offered, and it would take the essence of that food and go back to the eyes. Sattva, the best portion, is eaten, taken. So when we offer, you may not think that God has not taken, we are eating the prasad. No, the Lord has taken it, taken the best portion of it, and left the other things as prasad, as uchishta. When you take that, we get the grace of the Lord. It's associated with Lord, not only just association, it's our mental imagination. In reality, when we do the puja of the image, God manifests through that due to our beautiful devotion and mantra and other things. Then the Lord will take that and prasad, and it will make this something which is happening. Ramakrishna showed us the truth of the rituals too. So even in the rituals, you can get the prasad at the level of devotion. So everything that food offered, everything there in the temple, when offered to the Lord, it becomes prasad, and we get joy. So it is association with the Lord. So the name of the Lord, association, it brings down all that sensual disturbances which is there in our mind, and it extinguishes all that agitation of the mind, and it brings in joy. Why? Because the joy is already there. The divine bliss comes. Once the hankering for the material object ceases, one goes beyond all sufferings, and the mind becomes tranquil. In that state of internal fulfillment, the intelligence or the intellect becomes firm in its decision that God alone is the source of happiness, and He is the final goal of the soul. Previously, the intellect was accepting this idea only on the basis of knowledge as stated in the scriptures, but now it gets the experience of perfect peace and divine bliss. This convinces the intellect beyond any shadow of doubt, and it becomes steadily situated in God. So now we have explained these things through the devotional point of view. Let us now take up from the intellectual point of view. So tranquility causes, that is prasada means here tranquility of the mind, causes the destruction of all miseries in our personality. Verily, the self-knowledge of the serene-minded person becomes firm soon, and it becomes his own. Here, Lord Krishna, points out that what is the advantage of enjoying an equanimous mind? Prasadaha. So equanimous mind is called prasadaha. We have discussed that in the last class too. In this context, here prasada means samatvam, the evenness of the mind, the equanimity, the tranquility of the mind, the equanimity of the mind. That is called prasada. So we see that we get shanti. The extended meaning, the regular meaning of the word prasad is prasanna chitta. Prasanna Chitta. Chitta means our mind. Prasanna means tranquil. Shanti, peacefulness. Samatva, tranquility, equanimity. Poise, balance. So that equanimity of our mind is called prasada. And in this verse, Lord Krishna says to Arjuna, this prasada, equanimity of mind, this poise, this balance of the mind, the prasanna chitta will produce twofold benefit. What are the twofold benefits? The first benefit is sarva dukkhanam hani, the destruction of all sorrows. So, samatvam or prasada, the balanced state of mind, will remove all our internal agitation of the senses which wants more and more sensual gratification and joy. So it will remove all that sorrow. So all dukkha, hani rasya upajayate, sarva dukkhana, all the sorrows, which means the samatvam, prasada, brings in happiness or joy. The idea is we need not bring happiness from the outside world. Vedanta, according to Vedanta, we need not bring happiness from the outside world. It is not coming from the senses. World does not give us, the external world does not give us happiness. It doesn't have any iota of happiness. The world, the external world or the sensual objects does not have even an iota of happiness to give us. The outside world cannot give happiness. That is point number one. What is point number two? The outside world need not give happiness. It cannot give happiness. Then another thing is, it need not give happiness. How? Because we ourselves are the source of happiness. It is already there within us, not only in the ordinary or the little sense, but infinite joy, infinite bliss is in us. That is the Atma Swarupa. That is the Paramatma Swarupa which is in our heart. Satchit Ananda, infinite bliss, absolute Ananda. It's already there. Now, but we wrongly think by the Ajnana, by Maya, Avidya, we think that it is in the sense objects and we try to get it through the, depending upon that, attaching on that sense objects, all the attachment, Raga, Dvesha, everything we think we are getting there, and all the sorrows, all the troubles, all the depression, anxiety, all the pain, everything comes because of that. But in reality, it is already there within you. The joy is already, the bliss is already there within you. Then how does the prasada and other things when we take, or when we eat something, or when we do something, when we enjoy the sensual objects, we get joy. When I eat the sugar, I can see everybody feels that taste of sweetness and you get joy. When I eat the sweets or many good things which I like, I get joy. No, that's not the joy from the sweet. The sensual objects, when it is taken, when you get it, temporarily your mind settles down. It becomes calm. So that allows the joy of the God to manifest in you. That's why you are getting that. It is not through the senses, but the mind becomes calm. That is why the goal of yoga is yoga chitta vritti nirodha. The agitation of the mind, the restlessness of the mind, the vritti of the mind is made to be quieted. So then automatically, by default, the joy, the Lord who is already there within you manifests within you and you get the joy for a millionth of a second maybe. That's all. So it was the joy of the Lord. It was the joy of the Atman, of your own joy. But you are wrongly thinking that the joy came out from the sensual objects. So can you make it clear by an example? Yes, Ramakrishna gives that wonderful example. If you have read the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna, you might have known about the camel. The camel in the desert, it doesn't get any green thing. It starts eating the thorny bushes. So the thorny bushes will prick the mouth and the gums and everything, and then it starts bleeding. So then while it is eating, it thinks that the thorny bushes are giving that blood, the beautiful taste of the blood. It thinks its own blood, and it will be enjoying that thorny bushes, thinking that that is the the blood and other things, the taste of the blood, which is getting its own from its own mouth. It's not from the thorn. What is there in the thorn? So another example, similar, which Ramakrishna is giving. So similar example, another example can make you much more clear. What is that? What is that example? The dog bites the bone. So we all know that dogs like the bone. So it will, if you give the bone, it will be sitting there, and the whole day it will be biting that bone. When the dog bites the bone, you know that everybody knows that the bone doesn't have even a single drop of blood in it. The bone is as dry as a bone, because there is, in English, there is a saying. What is that? When something is very dry, we tell it as bone dry, as dry as a bone. So that itself can prove that bone doesn't have any blood, even a small drop of blood, half drop of blood. It is just dry bone. So that's why the usage in English, as dry as bone or bone dry. But yet the dog bites the bone, and it bites and bites, and the bone hurts the very mouth of the dog, and it starts bleeding. From the dog's mouth it starts bleeding. And now the dog or the camel, it uses the funny logic. What is that logic? Before biting the bone, there was no blood. After biting the bone, it started bleeding from the bone. Therefore, bone is the source of the blood. It is eating its own blood, it is drinking its own blood, but thinking that the blood has come from the bone. Wrongly thinking. That is its logic. Similarly, so that is called dog logic or camel logic. So all of us at the ordinary level are using this dog logic or camel logic, telling that the joy comes from the external world or the sense objects when we enjoy the sensual things. But Vedanta or scriptures, the great saints, says that we are not better off. After using a sense object, we enjoy, we get, yes, all of you get happiness, very small, petty, puny happiness. Before using that, we do not have happiness. Therefore, we conclude that the objective source of happiness is the sense objects. But our scriptures, Vedanta says, every object, sense object, is like that dry bone. It does not have even a drop or a small bit of joy. Bone dry. Just like the bone doesn't have even a drop of blood. Sense objects only are responsible in bringing out the happiness which is already our own, which is already there within us in the form of Atman, infinite joy. And how does the sense object brings out that happiness or the joy which is already within us in the form of Atma Swarupa? Just by removing all our mental disturbances temporarily. Therefore, mental disturbances are blocking our happiness. A wonderful example is given by Swami Vivekananda in his complete works. Swami Vivekananda tells our mind is like a placid, calm lake or a pond. When the mind is calm, when the mind is placid, when the lake is placid, you can see the bottom of the lake or the pond. So you throw a stone into that water or some dirt or something, mud. Then waves are caused on the, because the placidness goes away, then it causes waves, ripples on the surface. So now, or if you throw the mud, it becomes dirty and you can't see the bottom. So now he compares our mind to this lake or the pond. So when no disturbances are coming from the senses or from within in the form of memory, you can see dirt and mud is also within the lake, and also it's coming from outside when thrown. So likewise, our mind have already accumulated so much of dirt and squalor and other things in the form of so many earlier enjoyments, in the form of jealousy, in the form of ego, in the form of lobha, there is greed in the form of hatred, in the form of anger. So much of dust and dirt is already there in the form of memory, earlier experiences of the enjoyment of the senses. Everything is there in the form of vasanas in our mind already. That is the dirt and the what do you call the impurities. And the impurities and the other things are coming from outside too, just like that lake. So you cannot see the bottom at that time. So clear bottom. If you go to some of the rivers or the lakes, so beautiful bottom can be seen. It is just like a glass, prism. It looks so beautiful. But the moment there is the disturbance in the form of a ripple or a wave or some dirt or dust, it is coming from within or above, you can't see the bottom. Likewise, when our mind is calm, it's just like the lake, no disturbances, nothing is coming. Then you can see the bottom, that is our Atman, bottom of the lake or bottom of the mind. That is the Atman, that is full of joy. So you will get that joy. But now, in the form of the ears, in the form of the nose, in the form of the eyes, in the form of the skin, all that sense objects will start entering. Not one. One is just like one stone thrown to the lake. So this lake of mind is disturbed by 5 things at a time, and not just for a second or something. Every millionth of a second, the things are coming in. See, you are seeing, you are hearing. Now you are sitting there in your room in front of the TV, you are hearing so many things. The outside sound, inside sound, everything. Through all the 5 senses is millionth of a second, everything is entering constantly. So how many ripples and waves are being created in your mind constantly? So now you can't see the bottom. And if nothing is coming from outside, then from within also. Your mind may be seeing so many things from within. You may be dreaming of the past, you may be dreaming of the future. All that anger, hatred, everything is coming. So it is not allowing you to see the bottom. That is the bliss, infinite bliss within you. The agitation. That's why the first verse in Patanjali Maharshi's Yoga Sutra is Yogaha Chitta Vritti Nirodha. Stopping this mental modification. Each time it comes, the ripples formation in the mind, in that placid lake of mind, it is called Vritti, Chitta Vritti. The mind stuff will form waves. So that waves is not the disturbances, the ripples will not allow you to see the bottom. So when you give that sense objects to that, for a millionth of a second, the mind becomes quieted. All the sense objects, it becomes quieted. The mind becomes quieted. So then you will see the bottom. That is your own self. That is the joy. You see the bottom of your mind, that is the Atman, Atmaswarupa, which is infinite joy. So for a very small portion of the second, millionth of a second, it got manifested. Your Atman, you got the Atma Darshana. So when you enjoy the sensual objects for a temporary, very small joy, you get out of that. And that you feel you got it from the external objects or the sense objects, but it is not true. It's your own joy. That's why the example of the bone, the dog logic and the camel logic, which is given by Sri Ramakrishna, is making it understandable. It may be clear now. Therefore, our mental disturbances, the desires to enjoy these sensual objects and other things, the bad things which are within you, in the form of anger, hatred, they come up and they don't allow you to get that joy which is already yours. You are the source, you are the owners of infinite security, infinite peace, infinite joy. So your anger, your greed, your hatred, all that Arishad Vargas and the desire to enjoy this sensual joy are not allowing you to see your Atman and get that joy. The mental disturbances are blocking. When they are removed, when the blocks are removed, our own joy of Atma, Atmananda, Brahmananda manifests, and therefore Lord Krishna says, Prasade Sarva Dukkhanam. When you get that prasada, tranquility of the mind, when the mind is quietened, when it becomes poised, equanimous, then the joy already there, the Atma which is there, manifests. Sarva Dukkhanam Hanirasya Upajayate. All the sorrows vanishes. It takes away all the sorrows. So when our own Atmananda, own joy which is within us, we are the owners of all those things. When that manifests, therefore Lord Krishna says, Prasade Sarva Dukkhanam Hanihi Bhavati. Once the disturbances are gone, we are told in the previous shloka 2, the 64th, Shantim Prapnoti. So in the next shloka also we will tell that, Shantim Prapnoti. Therefore, joy or ananda, bliss does not come from outside, it comes from oneself. So now scientifically you have proved, Lord Krishna has proved, we could understand, we have got the conviction scientifically that it is joy is not coming from outside, joy is not coming from knowledge, is not coming from the senses and the other objects of the world, but it is already there in fullness within you. It's only being manifested when the mind is quietened. So many example of the lake by Swami Vivekananda and the example of the bone, the dog logic and the camel logic we could prove, which told by the story told by Sri Ramakrishna, it has been made so simple. So that's what Krishna is trying to explain here. Therefore, know it for certain, joy does not come from outside, it comes from within oneself. So what is the benefit number one? That joy or ananda, that is real joy or ananda. You get joy, bliss, when mind is composed, tranquil. Prasade sarvadukkanam, it becomes tranquil. What is the second benefit? Krishna says, prasanna chetasaha. When the mind is calm, paryavatishtate, self-knowledge becomes well rooted, well established, and that is prajna becomes stitaha, steady wisdom. So when you get this prasada, prasanna chetasaha, you get the prasanna chetasaha, then your mind becomes steady, your intellect becomes steady. That is sthita prajna. Your knowledge also becomes firm and steady. Self-knowledge becomes well rooted, deep rooted. It becomes stronger and stronger. It becomes well assimilated. You may eat food like Bakasura, or the great demon, or you may eat food like Bhima. But what is the use of taking so much of food? Whatever you assimilate when you eat, that is more important. How much have you assimilated from the food you have taken? There is a saying, an Egyptian saying. What is that? Only 25% of the food which we eat goes to nourish our body, gets assimilated. The 75% of the other food which we eat, only 25% of the food which we eat goes to nourish our body. The rest 75% of the food which we eat goes to nourish the, benefit the, profit the doctor. It will create ill health rather than assimilating and give you nourishment and strength. It will cause you disease, and that will benefit the doctor, that will give profit to the doctor. So here what you assimilate, the knowledge which you assimilate and make your own, which becomes deep rooted, is more important. How much of thing you have poured into your mind is not important. How much it has got assimilated, how much it is deep rooted now, that is more important. The amount of food that you eat is not important, but what you assimilate properly, that is which is important. Because all the food eaten may not nourish you, but only the assimilated. You know that while you take the food, they use the term in biology, anabolism, catabolism, metabolism. So the taking in, nourishing in, and it goes to every cell of the body. So only then it's useful, food is useful. Otherwise, it will be thrown out in the form of the waste material. It will go out in the form of excreta or the waste material. So how much ever you may consume, how much you have assimilated is very, very important. Likewise, even in the knowledge, how much ever knowledge you might have received, how much have you assimilated, how much have you made it practical. So how much have you converted that knowledge into emotional strength? How much you have put that knowledge, ideas into practice in your day-to-day life. That's why it's called Vedanta, practical Vedanta. How much have you put it into practice? How much has it benefited you? That is very, very important. So that happens due to prasada, calm, steady mind. Then the knowledge gets deep rooted, it gets assimilated. Then you become sthita prajna. Therefore, Lord Krishna says, buddhihi means our gnana or knowledge becomes prajna, will become paryavatishtate. It will get converted into sthita prajna, sthira prajna, firm knowledge. And what is the difference between prajna and sthira prajna? As we have earlier mentioned, it is available. When it is available during our day-to-day life, to put it into practice. What we have assimilated in the form of knowledge, if we are putting it into practice every day in our day-to-day life and getting the benefit out of it, to face the difficult situation, all the situation of our life, then it has become sthira. Otherwise, what is the use of the knowledge you have gained if it doesn't come to your help in your day-to-day life to face the life, stand on your own feet? So now that has become sthira, deep rooted. You got the nourishment. So that is what prasade sarvadukkanam hanirasya upajayate prasanna chetaso hyashuhu buddhihi parivatishtate. Now we have studied this verse from the intellectual point of view, from the logical point of view. Now we will take another angle of this same verse. And what is that another angle? Let us use little mathematics too, mathematical way. We'll understand this beautifully in arithmetic or a mathematical way. The same teaching of the Krishna we can get into, it becomes more firmer and firmer. We will understand it through the mathematical way. Now, prasade sarvadukkanam hanirasya upajayate prasanna chetaso hyashu buddhi paryavatishtate. In peace, all, that is poise of the mind, balanced state of mind, in peace all his sorrows are destroyed. The intellect of the tranquil minded soon becomes steady. So how shall we understand it, prove it by logic? Practice of self-control. That was what was discussed in the earlier 64, 63rd, 62nd verses. We have dealt with the Indriya Nigraha, the sense control, and Mano Nigraha, mind control. So practice of self-control as prescribed in the verse 64 results in peace of mind. In that peace, your mind is rid of all sorrows. You gain happiness. Furthermore, in a tranquil mind, your intellect becomes steady and sharp. Consequently, you become more efficient, isn't it? You become more efficient in all the stages of your life, in work, in the office, in studies. As a student, you become so. So teach them Bhagavad Gita from the young age as children. It will make their intellect sharp, their memory will be sharp, they will do every work perfectly. So Bhagavad Gita has to be given from the childhood. Our parents are doing a great mistake, thinking that what's the use of these religious things. They think that it is of no use, but during the time of death, if you go to the temple, that is enough. If you hear Gita, that is enough. No, you have to make your child sharp, intellect, and successful. Be a great leader. Give them Bhagavad Gita, the knowledge of Bhagavad Gita. So it is told here, you become more efficient. Consequently, when you do the sense control, when you have the mind control, and you get peace of mind, consequently you become more efficient, productive, prosperous in your field of activity. Thus, the formula of self-control from the verse 64 satisfies the two main pursuits of mankind. What is that? Wealth and happiness. So these are the two important pursuits of human beings at the ordinary level. What is that? Wealth and happiness. So you can get that too by self-control. If you have self-control, you can get these things too. If you want to do earning of the wealth, then you need mind control and self-control. That is what Krishna is telling us. So it's so practical, even at the ordinary level, gaining wealth and happiness too. So people pursue happiness directly or seek wealth with the hope of gaining happiness through it. Whether attempted directly or indirectly, the search for happiness inspires all activities in the entire world. So even to enjoy the worldly happiness, then you should have control of your senses. You should have control of your mind. Then only you can enjoy the sensual enjoyments too. Otherwise, that also cannot be enjoyed. That is, Lord Krishna will prove that in our next verse. We may not go to that next verse today because we have a lot to discuss about this verse itself. So, whether attempted directly or indirectly, the happiness of the search of the happiness inspires all activities in the entire world, isn't it? Both fulfilling your desire and reducing existing desire. Fulfilling your desire and reducing existing desires increases happiness. So could you understand this statement? Both fulfilling your desires increases your happiness. Then reducing the amount of desires already there, that also increases happiness, isn't it? A simple quotient gives the entire picture. So let us have a ratio. Happiness is the ratio of happiness is the ratio of desire fulfilled to the desire unfulfilled. So how will you put it into equation? To put it in the form of an equation, happiness H equals number of desires fulfilled by number of desires entertained. Could you catch it? You can write that equation. Happiness H equals number of desires fulfilled divided by number of desires entertained. So now we'll explain it. Your happiness increases by increasing the numerator or by decreasing the denominator or by both. Could you catch this point? Your happiness increases by increasing the numerator or by decreasing the denominator. What is the numerator? Number of desires fulfilled. What is the denominator? Number of desires entertained. So practically your happiness increases by the increase of the numerator or by decreasing the denominator or even by both. But in practical experience, when you fulfill a desire, what happens? You fail to practice the formula of self-control. The lobha, the greed increases. Many more desires spring up. So what will it bring? It brings sorrow. Instead of creating happiness, it brings sorrow practically. Consequently, the level of happiness often reduces with the fulfillment of a desire. But by living a life of self-control, your likes and dislikes wane away. That is the attachment and raga dvesha, the aversion. They wane away, they become decreased, your desires drop off, your happiness increases. Now you got it. With a disturbed mind, your intellect cannot function properly. Conversely, when your mind is calm, your intellect becomes very sharp. Your actions become more dynamic. So your actions, then your work, everything will become very dynamic because you have the self-control, you have the poise of the mind, equanimity of the mind, everything increases, your efficiency increases, your progress in life also increases. So verse number 64 and 65 together provides the formula for finding peace and tranquility within and gaining wealth and prosperity in the world too. You can get happiness within yourself, you can get happiness and you can be in peace even outside the external world, gaining wealth and prosperity in the world, thus satisfying the main pursuit of humanity, that is wealth and happiness. So we have now discussed the same verse from the mathematical point of view. Now we shall go to see the same verse to the practical, through the day-to-day. How can we make it relevant to our present day, present world? So that's a wonderful this thing. I'll complete that angle of this Bhagavad Gita verse and then I will end my thing. So I'll quickly take you through that. We have very little time, maybe 1 or 2 minutes, but I will take you through that. It's very, very important. So now Trived Ranganathanandaji Maharaj describes that when this quality, what is that quality of Atma Vashehi Videyatma? That is the sense control and the mind control. Atma Vashehi Videyatma. When the mind is not under your control, when the mind is under the control of the senses and the mind started behaving itself in its own way, so then it is not Videyatma or Atma Vashehi. But if you have this quality of Atma Vashehi Videyatma, then people will be moral and ethical. They will be happy everywhere. If you don't have this self-control, people collapse morally, ethically. In this matter, each one must help oneself. Nobody can help you. These are all human achievements. Instead of striving for going to an unknown heaven in the sky, why not be decent human being here? on the earth and realize the infinite Atman hidden within you. So you can see how Bhagavad Gita is so practical. It is not asking you to be happy only in the heaven, not RIP, rest in peace, but live in peace. That's what Krishna is telling. In some religion, it is RIP, rest in peace. Afterwards, you can be happy. But here, Bhagavad Gita is telling you should live in peace. So you have to realize that Atman here and make this heaven, the place where you live and the surroundings. Every people are to be made happy. You should be happy. Don't be an animal, a creature. Be free. Is the supreme message of Vedanta to all humanity. In several verses, this is stressed again and again. This discipline at the sensory level is what makes for yoga. Remaining at the stage of sense pleasure makes for bhoga. That is enjoyment, luxury. We all begin with bhoga, but Vedanta and the science of human possibilities. So here Ranganathanjima is wonderfully terming Vedanta as science of human possibilities. Tells us not to continue only at the level of bhoga, that bhoga level, all the time. Vedanta tells humanity to rise slowly to yoga level. So Sri Ramakrishna puts the subject in a beautiful way. If you don't rise from bhoga to yoga, you will be in roga, disease, sorrow. If you don't rise from bhoga to yoga, higher levels of thought, then you will be in roga, disease, that is suffering. All sorts of mental and nervous ailments. See, you can see so much of suffering, psychosomatic diseases, pain, diseases everywhere. So all sorts of nervous ailments and social tensions will come to you. Now, Ramakrishna also speaks of 3 levels of ananda or bliss available to all. What is that? Vishayananda, that is the sensual enjoyment. Bhajanananda, joy arising from singing hymns, bhajans, and service to God, the worship, service to humanity, seeing God. The Brahmananda, joy arising from realizing of infinite and immortal nature, that is as Brahman. So march on. You know that Ramakrishna story? One sadhu told a woodcutter, Egeja, go forward. So he went forward. He got the sandalwood trees. He was very happy, bought it, sold it, and he became rich because of the sandalwood. But the sadhu told me to go, brahmachari told me to go forward, not be satisfied with that. He went forward. He got the silver mines. He bought the silver and sold it. He became much more richer. Then he thought, the sadhu is told to go forward, not to stay there in the silver mine. He went forward. He got gold. Then he went forward. He got diamonds. So like that here, Ramakrishna is telling, Egeja, go forward. Don't stay at the Vishayananda. Go to the Bhajanananda. Then it is Brahma Atmananda. Then Brahmananda. Joy arising from realizing of infinite immortal nature. So march on. Don't stay at the sensory level. The child lives entirely. When we are childish also, all of us also are entirely at the sensory level. But as it grows older, it can get intimations of something higher. So let me go forward. Let me go towards that. That means a little discipline of the sensory system is to become a law-abiding citizen. You need a little control of the sensory system. Even to be a member of the healthy society, if you want to get health, then even you need a little control over the sensory system. This is what is insisted upon by Bhagavad Gita. Not as an end in itself, it is in the very first shloka, in the verse in this section, when Sri Krishna started expounding the nature of the Sita Prajna, man of steady wisdom, he said that this is not that you drive away all your sensory attachment, close all your sense and go away, run away from the world. He never told that. Live in the world, then control your senses. That's what he's telling. So that doesn't make a man a Sita Prajna. Mind must also be yoked to the Atman that is within. Realize your own infinite nature beyond the sensory level, then she is Sita Prajna. A mere negative ascetic attitude is never respected or presented in Bhagavad Gita or Vedanta literature. It must be something which gives you joy at all levels. If the sensory system gives you joy, what lies above the sensory system will give you 1,000,000 times more joy. That is the language used in the Upanishad and Bhagavad Gita. The Taittiriya Upanishad, while discussing the subject of inquiry into the nature of bliss, it is said that the joys of men on earth, gods in heaven, and every other types of joy are only a fraction, a millionth of that joy of the Atman, the Brahman, the God, the infinite nature of one and all. And therefore, these two verses gives us the freedom to live in this world, be happy in this world, not somewhere outside in the heaven after the death. So these two verses gives that idea to work in this world and enjoy the bliss in this world at various level. So Bhagavad Gita stresses that point. So we shall understand this message of Bhagavad Gita, and with our sense control and mind control, enjoy health, good spirituality, everything that is good. So everywhere there will be joy. You can create heaven, Vaikuntha, Kailasa, at the place where you live. Be happy with everybody in your family and everything. So wonderful message of Bhagavad Gita. So we will end the class now. We will stop the classes from today. Then in future, it will start only after January or something. We'll give the date after that. Here afterwards, there will be no Bhagavad Gita class for some time because of the Christmas holidays. So we will meet again next month, and the date will be announced later on. So until then, you can go through the already recorded Bhagavad Gita shlokas, verses, and revise it. Get the knowledge, meditate, Shravana, Manana, Nididhyasana, and then we'll be ready for the next classes. Now we are seeing if there are any classes. Sorry, any questions in the live chat? No. There are no questions. Never mind. Okay, I will close today's discussion with one verse of the meditation on Bhagavad Gita. Om Mukam Karoti Vachalam Bhangum Langhayate Girim Yat Kripatamaham Vande Paramanandamadhavam. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Tat Sat. Shri Ramakrishna Arpanamastu. Thank you. Namaste.